President Trump responded by saying when Bannon was fired, he not only lost his job, but lost his mind. Joining us now is the White House Senior Policy Advisor, Stephen Miller. Stephen, thanks so much for joining us, and Happy New Year.
Thanks.
Good to see you.
Good to be here.
So President Trump and the White House have been calling the Russia investigation a witch hunt and a nothing burger, but obviously in this new Michael Wolff book, Fire and Fury, Bannon offered a different take on the Trump Tower meeting between Donald Trump Jr., Jared Kushner, Paul Manafort, and these other officials, including a Russian lawyer. He called it treasonous and unpatriotic, and he said that, quote, the chance that Don Jr. did not walk these Jamos up to his father's office on the 26th floor is zero. Did President Trump meet with any of the so-called Jamos who were in that Trump Tower meeting?
Steve Bannon's eloquence in that description notwithstanding, it's tragic and unfortunate that Steve would make these grotesque comments so out of touch with reality and obviously so vindictive, and the whole White House staff is deeply disappointed in his comments, which were grotesque. And with respect to the Trump Tower meeting that he's talking about, he wasn't even there when this went down, so he's not really a remotely credible source on any of it. It reads like an angry, vindictive person spouting off to a highly discreditable author. The book is best understood as a work of very poorly written fiction. And I also will say that the author is a garbage author of a garbage book. And the tragic thing about this book, and there are many things about it that are unfortunate, but the portrayal of the president in the book is so contrary to reality, to the experience of those who work with him, to my own experience having spent the last 2 years with him. You know, on the campaign, I had the chance to travel all across the country with the president on Trump Force One. It would be the president, me, Dan Scavino, Hope Hicks, a few other people, going from rally to rally to rally to rally. And I saw a man who was a political genius, somebody who we would be going down, landing in dissent, there'd be a breaking news development, and in 20 minutes, he would dictate 10 paragraphs of new material to address that event and then deliver flawlessly in front of an audience of 10,000 people.
So you were at the campaign during that Trump Tower meeting, I believe, right, in the summer of 2016. Just to answer the question, because you were there and Steve Bannon was not, did any of those people from that meeting meet with President Trump? As Bannon says, the chance that he didn't, Don Jr. didn't walk these Jamos up to his father's office on the 26th floor is zero. Can you just settle that for us? Did President Trump meet with any of the people?
I have no knowledge of anything to do with that meeting.
Okay.
But what I can tell you unequivocally is that the allegations and insinuations in this book, which are a pure work of fiction, are nothing but a pile of trash through and through. Well, just to finish, Jake, because you know your network's been going 24/7 with all this salacious coverage, and I know that it brings a lot of you guys a lot of joy to trying to stick the knife in. But the reality is that page after page after page of the book is pure false. I see sections of the book where events I participated in are described, and I have firsthand knowledge that as they're described, they're completely and totally fraudulent.
Nobody at CNN is sticking knives in anybody.
Right, but
there are a lot of people in the White House quoted in the book. I don't know why.
It's the quote that you're referring to is a quote from Steve Bannon.
Right, who was the president's senior strategist.
And I think that the president's statement on Steve settles once and for all the view about all of that. But
let's talk about that, because I want to talk about that.
Let's dig in, though, to your comment about, well, he was also the president's chief strategist. So one of the other tragedies of this grotesque work of fiction is its portrayal of the president. The reality is the president is a political genius who won against a field of 17 incredibly talented people, who took down the Bush dynasty, who took down the Clinton dynasty, who took down the entire media complex with its 90% negative coverage, took down billions of dollars in special interest donations. And he did it all through the people and through his strategy and his vision his insight and his experience.
Let's talk about it. The president is now calling Bannon, quote, sloppy Steve, and he released a scathing statement this week saying in part, quote, Steve Bannon has nothing to do with me or my presidency. When he was fired, he not only lost his job, he lost his mind. You worked hand in glove with Bannon at the White House and on the campaign. Is the president really arguing that Steve Bannon had nothing to do with him or his presidency?
I can only tell you my experience, which is that I joined the campaign in January of 16, before the first ballot was cast in the Iowa caucus.
Bannon helped you get that job. No?
Corey Lewandowski is the one who offered me the job in the Trump campaign. But just to finish,
Bannon wasn't helping you? Bannon didn't help you get that job on the campaign?
I think the person who probably helped me most get the job on the campaign was probably Corey. But the most important thing, because I've been working with Corey before I joined to try and help out with the campaign, but the most important thing to say about this is that the president's first speech that he gave, unfiltered, unscripted, that was Donald Trump. That's the same Donald Trump who for 30 years has talked about how America is getting ripped off on trade, on military deals, and everything else. It's the same Donald Trump who tapped into the pulse of millions and millions of Americans.
Right, but there's no presidency that is one person.
It's a phenomenon that was happening that you didn't see, a phenomenon that was happening that the rest of the political class didn't see. All these so-called political geniuses in Washington, whether it be at the big lobbying firms or
the only person who's called himself a genius in the last week is the president. But
which happens to be a true statement.
Okay.
It's self-made billionaire who revolutionized reality TV and who has changed the course of our politics.
He's watching and he's happy that you said that. But
you know, Jake, you can be condescending.
I'm not being condescending. I'm trying to get to the point that Steve Bannon.
You can be condescending. That was a snide remark. You're sure he's watching and he's happy. Let me tell you something.
Why is that
your
snide?
network? You can be as condescending as you want. It's part of your MO. But listen, you can have 24/7.
I have no idea why you're attacking me.
Well, I'll explain to you.
My point is,
I'll tell you why I'm attacking you.
Steve Bannon,
Jake, you can have a 24/7.
Help push the president's travel ban. He helped pull out.
I'm so glad you brought that up because that's one of the fake news items in the book.
Stephen,
I would happen to know better than you would, Jake, about how the travel ban was written. Steve Bannon didn't push the travel ban.
If you would let me, if you let me ask this question.
No, because you get 24 hours of negative anti-Trump, hysterical coverage on this network that led in recent weeks to some spectacularly embarrassing false reporting.
I think the viewers right now can ascertain who's being hysterical.
The viewers are entitled to have 3 months of the truth. Why don't you just give me 3 minutes to tell you the truth about Donald Trump that I know and then all of our campaign staff know?
Because it's my show and I don't want to do that. So here's my question.
No, but this isn't a courtroom, and I have a right to speak.
Settle down. Calm down.
Jake.
I have a question for you about issues. Stephen Bannon, who the president says had nothing to do with his presidency, he was part of the president's travel ban. He was part of pulling out of the Paris climate deal. He was part of withdrawing from the TPP. He's part of border security. He's part of being tough on immigration.
So you want to go through the list?
No, I don't want to go through, but my point is it really the position of the Trump White House that Steve Bannon had nothing to do with the presidency, or can you acknowledge the reality that he was a key player?
I think that what the point is that his role has been greatly exaggerated, whereas the president hasn't gotten the due that he deserves for the movement that he put together to tap into the kinds of people whose life concerns don't get a lot of attention on CNN. Not a lot of hours of coverage on this TV talking about the working class construction workers who've lost their jobs to foreign labor. There's not a lot of coverage on this TV about the people getting slaughtered in sanctuary cities. You don't do a lot of human interest stories about immigrant communities under siege from MS-13. He tapped into a reality that is happening in this country that's not covered on this network. And I know you think I'm interrupting you, but I think the American people deserve to have 2 or 3 minutes of the truth.
And we've let you talk.
No, here's the truth. I travel with Donald Trump all across the country and the world. I would be with the president on a campaign plane with a rally in 20 minutes, and he would be able to come up...
You've already made this point, Stephen.
He'll be able to come up with material...
Yeah, you've already said that. We let you say that at the top. According to the New York Times, Special Counsel Robert Mueller has in his possession an early draft of a letter that you helped write in May 2017 detailing reasons to fire FBI Director James Comey. According to the newspaper, the first line of the letter mentions the Russia investigation. Did you write a letter outlining reasons to fire Comey and list the Russia investigation? Is that true?
Here's the problem with what you're saying. The final draft of the letter, the one that was
I'm not talking about that one. I'm talking about the one that Comey has that mentions Russia.
If you want to have an answer to your question and not to get hysterical, then I'll answer it. The final draft of the letter has the same line about the fact that there is a Trump-Russia investigation that this has nothing to do with.
So it was just moved from the top to the bottom?
No. No, look at the letter. It's the beginning. The investigation is referenced in the beginning of the final letter that was released to point out about the fact that notwithstanding having been informed that there's no investigation, that the that the move that is happening is completely unrelated to that. So it was a disclaimer. It appeared in the final version of the letter that was made public.
I want to ask you, because you obviously are very offended by the notion that this book, Fire and Fury, paints a picture of President Trump. Trump is not mentally up to the job. On Saturday, President Trump put out a series of tweets trying to defend himself on this issue of fitness. And he said, quote, "Actually, throughout my life, my two greatest assets have been mental stability and being, like, really smart. Crooked Hillary Clinton also played these cards very hard and, as everyone knows, went down in flames. I went from very successful businessman to top TV star to President of the United States on my first try. I think that would qualify as not smart, but genius, and a very stable genius at that." Do you think tweets like that help or hurt the cause that the president is stable and up for the job?
Not only do I think they help it, but I think in the toxic environment that you've created here in CNN and cable news, which is a real crisis of legitimacy for your network, and we saw it, of course, with the extremely fake news you reported about the Don Jr. and WikiLeaks story. There was a huge embarrassment for your network.
Stephen?
Just like the huge embarrassment you had when you got the Comey testimony wrong.
Stephen, I'm trying to get to the issue of the president's fitness, which a lot of people are questioning.
I'm getting to the issue of your fitness, but the president's tweets absolutely reaffirmed the plain-spoken truth. A self-made billionaire revolutionized reality TV and tapped into something magical that's happening in the hearts of this country. The people that you don't...
The president has approval rating in the 30s. I don't know what magical you're talking about.
The people that you don't connect with and understand, the people whose manufacturing jobs have left, who've been besieged by high-crime communities, and who've been affected by a policy of uncontrolled immigration, those voices, those experiences don't get covered on this network. That's why, to prove the point, I was booked to talk about the very issues I'm just describing, and you're not even asking about them because they're not interesting facts to you.
That's not true. I have plenty of questions on immigration. You've attempted to filibuster by talking about your flights with the president. I want to ask you a question because
don't be condescending, Jake.
Stephen, the president and the White House.
The reason why I want to talk about
the president and the White House.
The reason why I want to talk about the president's experiences, what I've seen with him traveling to meet dozens of foreign leaders, with his incredible work.
Okay, you're not answering the questions.
No,
I understand.
You have 24 hours a day of anti-Trump material, and you're not going to give 3 minutes for the American people to hear the real experience of Donald Trump.
There's one viewer that you care about right now, and you're being obsequious. You're being a factotum in order to please him. Okay.
No.
And I think I've wasted enough of my viewers' time. Thank you, Stephen. As Republicans, lawmakers call for Attorney General Jeff Sessions to resign, in a major reversal, Democrats are now coming to his defense. What changed? We'll ask the top Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee next.